The wait is finally over. The playoffs are here.
Yes!
Stevie Johnson, Bills, Broncos. What is the biggest factor in that game on Sunday?
Is we have our depth. I think the Buffalo Bills are very deep in a roster, and they season for this game against the Broncos. I think this is where the road stops for the Denver Broncos.
And I think with this game, Bo Nix, the big question mark, a rookie quarterback on the road in Buffalo, a place where the Bills have not lost all season. Oregon guy to Oregon guy, Davis. Right. What do you think Bo Nix can do on the road? He's a seasoned guy, played a lot of games in college. He's not your traditional rookie.
Yeah. Bo Nix can have some success against this Bills defense, and I think that's probably something the Bills are willing to deal with. They have been better over the last month. They've been a lot better. I will say, though, the strength of this Denver Broncos team is their defense, and I don't think Josh Allen and this Bills offense, number two, talk about efficiency in offense, number two in the NFL, they won't have any problem at home moving the ball. I think they can score 35, 40 points against this Denver Broncos defense that's a top 5 defense.
I cannot wait for this game. Welcome into Broken Table ahead of Wild Card Weekend. Korolnek, Hein, Sanchez, and Johnson around the table. The Buffalo Bills, 8.5-point favorites, hosting the Denver Broncos. My God, I cannot wait for this game. That is going to be such an incredible atmosphere. You're going to be there, right?
I will be there.
Oh, man, get the tables.
It's going to be a fun one. Thank God for a Sunday 1 o'clock, because if they got the night game, I would have been a bag of the next morning when we had the tape for divisional round. I'll say this, though, and this kind of plays into sitting in the stands from my seats in section 311. This is strength against strength in terms of we have arguably the best offensive line in the league going up against the best pass rush in the NFL. And from my seats, you kind of have that all 22 view. And I am just looking forward to let my football nerdism out with a battle in the trenches between a great O-line and then against a great Broncos pass rush.
Yeah, and perhaps the defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain of the Broncos, who I think is positioned in a weird spot against a Bills offense that doesn't have that de facto go-to guy. There is no Jamar Chase for Pat Surtain to follow around the field. So I'm not going to say he's irrelevant in this game. Maybe shadows Amari Cooper, maybe shadows Khalil Shakir, but he's not as important in a game for a Buffalo offense that can do so many different things with so many different guys.
One thing that really, it's funny you mentioned him, because I go back to that game against the Bengals and he followed Jamar Chase around. And who ate? T. Higgins. Higgins, right, who just was a monster that game. I think he had 3 touchdowns. And who's got the similar build as T. Higgins? That is Keon Coleman. Both guys are 6'4". They have that big catch radius. If Surtain isn't lined up against Keon Coleman, Stevie, do you think he could eat against this Broncos secondary?
I don't think we're going to have a problem at all because, like I said, depth. Whether he lines up against Keon or he lined up against Amari or Khalil, or he try to go against Dalton, who knows? Like the depth, wherever he go, we're going to have somebody else that's open. That's the benefit of the Buffalo Bills right now. So it kind of eliminates that X factor in opposing teams. And I think that's what the advantage is for the Buffalo Bills as they go quarter by quarter against this team. They're going to be shook up. And by that time, you got to still stop the number one offense with Josh Allen in this 3-headed rushing game if you add him with the running backs that they have now. So, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think it's just going to be a tune-up game for the Buffalo Bills in the trenches, like you said. It's going to be a real good tune-up game for the Buffalo Bills. And the first one's for the Mafia. It's at home, 1 o'clock. It's going to be electric. This is special.
I really hope Stevie Johnson doesn't show up on that freezing cold takes account where it's
yes.
this is going to be electric. We've seen some weird things in the playoffs. Like I remember that Miami game that Buffalo hosted a couple years ago.
Skylar
Thompson. And you're sitting there in the third quarter. You're like, are the Buffalo Bills really about to lose to Miami? But I'm with you, Stevie. I don't see a way in which the Bills aren't just dominating this Broncos team, which is kind of an inferior version of Buffalo in almost every way.
I think we're, and I have respect from my crew here, we're overlooking this Broncos team a bit. I do think, obviously, the Bills, the point spread will tell us the Bills should win this game and should be a favorite. But to think that it's just going to walk in and they're going to walk in and we're going to smash them. This is a really good defense and a Sean Payton well-coached team. Let me mention real fast that the shadowing and Patrick Surtain. There's no way Patrick Surtain will shadow anybody on the Buffalo Bills because that lets the offense of Buffalo dictate where Patrick Surtain is going to be on every snap. Why the heck would they do that? It makes it easier on that Bills defense, on that Bills offense. So he won't shadow anyone. That way they can dictate where they have him and what he does. So there'll be no shadowing. They don't have a receiver that's dominant.
That's
and
worthy.
dominant.
That's worthy of that. Like Chase would be. I will say this in terms of overlooking the Broncos. Bo Nix has had a nice year. I know it's a
Really nice year.
I hate to bash a duck with Chezzy here, but like you're a rookie quarterback going into that atmosphere, and I think Sean McDermott 9-4 against rookie quarterbacks career. Drake May's the only one who's thrown more than a touchdown pass of a rookie quarterback against a Sean McDermott D, and that was a couple weeks ago. I think Broncos are a great story. Nice team. They've done a lot of stuff. You look at where things were after that 70-point game last year and the things people were saying. I just think their Super Bowl has already happened. Making the playoffs is their big achievement, and I think they're just this is the participation award. They're gonna show up, they're gonna lose by 20.
You're acting like the Buffalo Bills are the seven-time Super Bowl champions here, saying that this is for the Broncos. That was their Super Bowl. Maybe it was the Bills Super Bowl. Bills haven't done anything in the playoffs either. And I'm a Bills supporter, but let's be honest.
They have aspirations, whereas the Broncos going into this year, what was their win total going into the season? 6.5. So they've overachieved. And I think making the playoffs is a great success. But like, you really think, first of all, no defense has been able to really slow down Josh this year. Do you think Bo Nix is going to be able to go like possession for possession?
That's the only way that's
what I feel. Also, I feel like that all. That's why I think like their young energy from the Broncos and feeling so high on what they've already accomplished. That's going to give the Bills a problem. That's going to give them that wake up call. Like, okay, these boys came to play. But then you got to think like Hein is also saying. You got to think about that decision making. For 4 quarters, you think Bo Nix is going to be able to last for 4 quarters against this team? At this point of this team's career with 13 wins, that's like the 90s team. That was a Super Bowl team. You know, I don't think the Bills are going out like that. So, yeah, it will be a wake-up call in the first quarter. And then I think the Buffalo Bills should run over them like they usually do in the second half or even more the second quarter.
Can I ask you guys a question? Do we really – the Bills' record this year is what it is, excellent record. But do you think the teams, Steve, I asked you this question, do you think the teams look at the Buffalo Bills right now as dominant and they fear the Buffalo Bills? Because I don't. I don't think the Bills are a team, just by the style they play. Their defense is not great. They're not dominant in the run game.
I think they do because of Josh Allen. You know, if Josh Allen was hurt or injured, then I think I would lean towards they coming in with more momentum and more confidence. But with what Josh Allen's doing, with him compared with James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, having Keon on the outside, having Amari, I think they see us as a big threat because that's what this generation is adding these stars. And you see these guys that's not quote unquote stars like Amari style being 5-time, 6-time Pro Bowler, but you see them making plays and their development and their prototypes, their body is where it needs to be for this type of team with Josh Allen who can run and pass. So I think they come in with a more neutral mind. Yeah, they're going to be pumped for that first 15, like that first quarter. But I think they understand that it's a hill, it's a mountain that they got to climb to beat the Buffalo Bills. And then you align that with the Bills Mafia. I know this is probably the third thing that they're thinking about, you know, the last thing they're thinking about. But when you get in that stadium and you feel the atmosphere and you see the Mafia and going through the bus and the tailgates, then you kind of it all works. It all plays in. So that's what adds to this aura of the Bills season in the Mafia. And I think it kind of shakes teams up early in the game, and it is easy for us to knock them out.
It just seems to me that this upcoming playoff run, the season as a whole for the Buffalo Bills, is a tipping point for this era of Buffalo Bills football. Josh Allen playing as well as he ever has. You get that rest in the final season of many of your big boys, and you need to go take care of business against a Broncos team that, I get it, Davis, I agree with you. They're not some trash team that doesn't have any business being in the postseason like a Miami would have been had the Dolphins gotten in, and they would have just gotten smashed.
That would have been fun.
But that would have been a 14.5 point spread on FanDuel. Forget 8.5 against Denver. But I think this is a real football team with aspirations of winning a Super Bowl. And you got to send a message here because when you look at Baltimore on the other side, your likely opponent in the divisional round, they are almost double-digit favorites hosting a Pittsburgh team. And we'll get to that in just a moment. I mean, both of these games, Pittsburgh, big underdog, Denver, big underdog. If you had to pick one of them to stage the upset, who do you think it is?
I think it's Pittsburgh. And like you said, we'll dive deeper into that game later. But the last 10 meetings between Pittsburgh and Baltimore, only once has it been within one score. I don't want to step on it too much, but Lamar's numbers suck against Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So yes, I really like the matchup for Buffalo as well because I think Denver blitzes at the second highest rate. They're cover zero, fifth highest rate. Who destroys a blitz? Josh Allen. If you try to blitz Josh Allen, he will pick you apart. So I think we often talk about how styles make fights. I just don't think this defense is equipped enough to stop Josh Allen. One, because, and I'll ask you guys, who's got the best O-line in football? Because I think it's Buffalo.
Detroit does, but yes.
Who's got the second then?
Yeah, it's worth an argument.
Yeah, so like, I think the Bills' O-line will be really key to keeping Josh upright and keeping that Denver pass rush at bay. And if they can do that, then you said it best. If Surtain's on one guy, just look to everybody else.
All right, so the Ravens are 9.5-point favorites hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. You mentioned it, the numbers, I guess, historically favor the Steelers in the matchup. 8-2 in the last 10 matchups. And all these games seem to be really close, but Pittsburgh's really fallen off, and Baltimore's offense looks disgusting, frankly, over the last month. Do you see this game being yet another within a score?
Yeah, because,
Me too.
Honestly, I feel like Ravens fans hate me based off of all of the comments we had on the last video, but until I see Lamar do it in the playoffs, I'm always going to be a little skeptical. And like, you just look at the splits. You look at the regular season stats, 2-time MVP, could maybe be a 3rd-time MVP, but they just fall off of a cliff come playoffs. And if you look at the numbers against Pittsburgh in his career, it gets even uglier. 2-4 career record as a starter, 57.98 completion percentage, 8 touchdown, 9 picks. Like those are not MVP
Question for
numbers.
you. Circumstantial or Lamar is, you trying to say Lamar is not a clutch player?
He's calling him a choker.
Lamar
No.
chokes in the playoffs. Answer, I'm honest question.
saying
Are you saying this because you think Lamar, this is circumstantial in the playoffs, historically, or Lamar can't do it in the playoffs?
I think a lot of times in sports, people think just because I haven't seen it means it can't happen. For the longest time, Peyton Manning can't win a Super Bowl.
Right,
Peyton Manning,
right.
LeBron James can't win a title.
Right.
And then it happens. I think one day Lamar will be able to put it all together like he does in the regular season and be a good to great playoff quarterback. But until I see it with my own eyes, I am not going to buy into that.
Stevie, where do you stand on the Ravens and their chances of getting past Pittsburgh?
I feel like they will get past Pittsburgh because I don't see a lot of touchdowns coming from the Pittsburgh Steelers side. Where they go get, these touchdowns to, account for either Lamar's run or one of his passings. And then you got to think about Derrick Henry. You got to think about likely may getting, Andrews. So I feel like there's more ways that the Ravens can score than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Great job by the Pittsburgh Steelers to do what they've done. But I think underachieved, maybe. I would say they underachieved. With Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, it's tough.
Yeah, and
I really don't know how to explain it.
It's one of those unexplainable things in sports that Lamar
'cause he's
hasn't
so good.
thrived because he's so incredible in the regular season. This game for me, it's more about Pittsburgh just absolutely stinking the joint up down the stretch. I mean,
they were so bad
just
last week.
garbage,
But
nothing.
They
the way
still could have won that Cincy game.
yes,
like
they could have.
They
They
still
could
can
have.
keep games close.
Yes, they can keep. I know. I like Pittsburgh to cover. I don't like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh to win. Again, I don't really trust Russell Wilson at this point in career. George Pickens, I don't know what this guy's got going on up here, and like the running back duo with Harris and Jalen Warren. I love Pat Freiermuth. I just don't see a way in which they can keep pace with the Ravens unless Davis Lamar Jackson goes and reverts to Lamar Jackson of playoffs of yesteryear, which I think he's progressed past that point. I can't see him laying another egg in the playoff.
I hope the good folks at FanDuel, the traders, and everyone else listening is just keeps on spewing this Lamar can't get done in the playoffs. Let's keep these numbers low. Let's keep this line low. And I haven't seen Lamar choke, or I haven't seen anything in Lamar's eyes or how he plays in the playoffs. It tells me that he's not a gamer on the biggest stage. Do I think he's played his best games in the playoffs? No, but I think it's circumstantial. And when I look at the matchup, guys, this is a Pittsburgh team that, what are they known for? Their defense, right? Over the last 9 weeks, so the second half of the season, they're 24th in defensive efficiency.
Yeah.
If the Pittsburgh Steelers defense isn't good, then who the hell are they? Because Russell Wilson sure ain't good. So I think Baltimore smashes the Steelers.
You lay the 9 now?
Absolutely. I have zero faith in the Steelers, and I have a ton of faith in Baltimore. If Baltimore had home field, which they don't, I think they're the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't hate. Sorry. Go ahead, Stevie. Go ahead.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Like, this may be a conversation said about Josh Allen later if the Bills continue to progress in the Kansas City Chiefs and they meet and they talk about the playoffs, Josh Allen versus Mahomes versus the regular season Josh Allen Mahomes. So I think this is what Lamar Jackson's kind of going through right now, early but he's gonna, like David's saying, I think he go shut a lot of people up this wild card game.
That's a great point. Right, like the Josh Allen. People say the same thing about Josh. Oh,
it's true.
They can't win the playoffs.
It's
but
wrong
do you think
about Josh though? Like,
his numbers?
I agree it's wrong about Josh.
The numbers are different.
But hold on, but Josh has like a 21-4 touchdown to interception ratio,
Yes.
whereas like Lamar's playoff numbers are they're not even close.
I agree, but people still will say I agree. I think, and Josh, you can't even. If you say that, you're just an idiot.
And even I'll chirp myself too. Going back to last year, it's not Lamar's fault that Zay Flowers fumbles at the goal line when who knows what happens in that game if that goes the other way, right?
And we simply have a collision course here for Buffalo and Baltimore to play in the divisional round in Western New York, which will be just an absolutely incredible game if we're fortunate enough to get there. And then you look at what Kansas City's got waiting for it,
we
right?
say who would be a favorite there? Who would be a favorite? Buffalo.
Buffalo 2.5.
Buffalo 2.5. Baltimore in Buffalo. Buffalo 2.5.
And let's not forget the last time that they were there for a playoff game, it was Lamar Jackson who threw a Taron Johnson 105-yard pick six or whatever to win that game. So I think 2.5 or 1.5, but it all depends on kind of what we see this week. But I don't know. Me and Stevie, we've talked about it all year.
I think we're
all afraid of them just running down Buffalo's throat because it's a matchup nightmare for the Bills.
Yeah, we saw what Derrick Henry can do all year long, getting close to 2,000 yards on the ground and a touchdown seemingly every single game. With regards to the last matchup, the Chargers and the Houston Texans, I don't think either team inspires a lot of fear in the Kansas City Chiefs, their likely opponent in round 2. If you were Kansas City, you could draft one of the two teams to play. Who would you select?
I think if you're, and this is why I'm the Ravens fan, I'm a touch worried. That third divisional game, there's always something wonky with that third divisional game. And if I'm the Chiefs, I don't want the Chargers. I definitely want to play the Texans, who I know I can handle. The Texans have kind of been meh for half the season.
For sure.
But
and so many injuries on offense, too.
The way Harbaugh, we know, is a great coach. The physicality in which the Chargers play with, I think that could be like a low-scoring slugfest in which anyone can win. And would it shock anybody if Herbert kind of went toe-to-toe with Mahomes? No. Another duck for you there.
It's all ducks.
Yeah, to add to that, there's a conference game. You know how those conference games go, you know? So I definitely don't think they want to see the Chargers. This team is dynamic on offense with that quarterback Herbert doing his thing, slinging it. The coaching, everything that you said is every reason why I don't think the Chiefs will want to see the Chargers, because anything can happen. But with the Texans, I feel like they can control them on another level. So yeah, my pick is the Chargers.
Chargers are actually favored too. Chargers are 3-point favorites in that game on the road. Do you guys want to hear a lovely fun fact though?
I love fun facts.
Okay, here we go. Here is the start time for every wild card game in Texans history. 2011, Saturday 3:30. 2012, Saturday 3:30. 2015, Saturday 3:30. 2016, Saturday 3:30. 2018, Saturday 3:30. 2019, Saturday 3:30. 2023, Saturday 3:30. And when are they playing this week? Saturday 3:30.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's the equivalent.
That is disrespect.
That's such disrespect.
Yes.
That's the equivalent of you're the NBA TV playoff series.
The NBA TV playoff series is that's the
your Hawks Bulls going to NBA TV.
The worst thing is they're not even trying to, like, the NFL, like, throw them a bone, give them the second game or the early morning game Sunday, something just to make it not look so terrible.
If Houston advanced and they played the Chiefs, they'd still make it at Saturday at 3:30. Just to keep it consistent.
And I don't know if you guys remember Josh Allen's first playoff game against Houston in one of those Saturday 3:30s where
Saturday 3:30. So
he threw the lateral to the fullback, the 50-yard bomb to the fullback.
Can I add this from a quick football thing about the Texans here? What we thought was good about this Texans team and why they have a shot was the great quarterback play of C.J. Stroud and their weapons, right? Well, since the second half of the season, since week 9, their offensive efficiency for this dynamic offense, they're 28th in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, their defense is not great. So you have the 28th ranked offense, and that was kind of your calling card. They have no chance. I'm with you. The LA Chargers are the most, other than the top 3 big boys in the AFC, the LA Chargers are the next most dangerous team because they have the best quarterback with some pieces around him.
Their value to win the conference is interesting. You can get Chargers right now on FanDuel at plus 1,500 to win the conference, which to me, not that crazy, just because they have the quarterback and they have the easiest first matchup with the Texans. I don't know. I've been kind of bullish on this Chargers team all year.
Plus 15 like this? blowing that money in there.
Exactly.
Just 1,500. Money gone. They have the best chance, but those top 3 teams are so much better.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm
know
with
you're
you.
right.
I do think it is one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. And just shifting our focus to the NFC for a second, and we were talking about before the show about a team that you've been talking about for a couple weeks here in the Rams and the matchup they have against the Vikings, a team that we saw on Sunday night that did not look impressive at all against the Detroit Lions defense that everyone has been destroying except Sam Darnold, who may have come back to earth a little bit here. Are you fading Minnesota here, or with regards to the Rams, are you sticking to them?
Every person on this set currently, other than Michael Hall behind the camera, has asked me if I'm fading the Vikings, and the answer has not changed. I do not believe in this Vikings team at all. Sam Darnold showed us what he was yesterday when the pressure was too much, and they broke it down really well on the broadcast, how they really tried, the edges tried to keep him within the pocket. And they would kind of start their rush and then push inward. And Darnold did not know what to do. Those guys couldn't beat man coverage. Credit to, I'm sure as a DB, Davis, you probably loved what you were seeing last night.
They were excellent.
Anzalone back changes everything. Like, he completely eliminated Hawkinson from that game. I'm not a believer in the Vikings. And I think we've talked about this before. Teams that rely too much on blitzing when you're up against a good veteran quarterback, Stafford at home against that Vikings D. I think the Rams, and that's I called this earlier, like 4 weeks ago. I said, bet the Rams to win the conference.
True.
They have the best coach. They have the best quarterback. That's still the case. In the NFC, they have the best coach. They have the best quarterback. I like them. You're only getting 2.5 though. I thought that spread would be a little bigger, but
What's amazing that a 14-win team against a Rams team that had a really nice finish to the season is only laying 1.5, 2 points, 2.5 points, which is an incredible testament to number one, the lack of belief in Minnesota, and 2, what the Rams have been able to do in the second half, Stevie.
Yeah, I feel like that was a gift for the LA Rams to be at home to host this Vikings team. I'm with Chris. I like the Vikings, what they did. I like how Sam Darnold has revived his career. But at the same time, I feel like they're on upset alert. They may go out to LA and run into a team that's fully healthy with full offensive firepower and a defensive line that can run around and be multidimensional. So I'm looking forward to seeing the LA Rams advance, and the Vikings, great season, but they're going to go home.
Yeah, and teams coming off a bye essentially, right? I mean, the Rams just had a bye. They didn't play any of their guys. You look at Green Bay and Philadelphia. Now, we don't know what the deal is with Jalen Hurts at the moment with the concussion. We presume he will play.
The line makes it seem so like Love, and also Love said he's
Love's
fine.
got a problem with his hand.
He said he's fine, though. I think that was similar to what happened with Josh Allen, where you hit the elbow and then you lose the feeling in the hand. Love said yesterday, he's like, I'm playing.
Yeah.
So
well, if Malik Willis is out there, they may as well not show up.
I'm intrigued by that game as well. That's a week 1 rematch. That weird Brazil game.
What a game that was.
The turf was weird. Oh, Chezzy's dialing something up here.
No, we just back before we just move off the Rams game. I mean, if we look at the successes, because you guys mentioned the quarterback play against Minnesota, right? Against how Minnesota's defense faces veteran quarterbacks. I thought that was, I don't know who made the point. Someone about the veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
But that's a great point. And you saw early last night that if you're moving around, and I talked about it a bit, but if you can move around and get some stuff at the line of scrimmage, motions and things like that, a veteran quarterback, and it happened, like I said, the first half last night, Goff was getting to the line of scrimmage like 17 seconds on the clock, and then using that time to motion his guys back and forth and get a really good key onto what Minnesota and Flores were trying to blitz and where they were coming from, and he was torching them. And what do you think, Matthew? I think Goff's good at it.
Oh,
I think Matthew Stafford's great.
Yeah.
So they're gonna that's a really tough matchup for Brian Flores. Again, they don't want to play man back there. I said that first Detroit game in Week 7, they played man twice out of 54 snaps of defense. The Vikings played man twice. So they want to play zone, but you play zone against Matthew Stafford. He gets up to the line of scrimmage, moves guys around, sees where you're going. Exactly what Stevie.
Between Puka and Kupp, they are just going to find holes in those zones all day. I agree. I don't know. I like that game. I'm looking forward to it. We might be a little sour on the Vikings just because of recency bias and what we just saw.
It's like they're trash. They're done.
No, but it's
Darnold's the pumpkin.
Did you say we?
Well,
Because
sorry.
we're the only ones saying we saw who Sam Darnold is.
Hey,
I've been
consistent. I've been consistent with it for weeks now.
That tells me that you made it. You took a take.
Confirmation bias instead of recency bias.
You took a take and you're not willing to get off it.
I just think they're a good. Same thing.
And that Rams team beat our Bills though, so I got to go with them.
One of the games of the year, yeah.
Over there.
I've been saying it from the beginning. I think when you have best coach, best QB, that goes somewhere. And I think playoffs, we need to sort of, you almost need to strip down your analysis. And sometimes it's as simple as we have the two most important things, which is coaching and quarterback play. But so let's go to that Packers-Eagles game, which is arguably maybe game of the whole week. Like
in the conversation for sure.
So I don't think we can put any stock into that Brazil game just because the field was so bad. It was so early. I don't know. Love got hurt at the very end. It was last play. Love got hurt at that game, right?
That's right. Yeah. Blew out his knee for out a month.
Honestly, I like the Packers coming into these playoffs, but they have not looked good for the last month. I have no idea how to look at this game.
Well, and then the problem is there's so much uncertainty with Jalen Hurts. And again, we assume he's coming back, but I mean, it's clearly not a insignificant injury. He's missed a couple of weeks here with a concussion.
He might have been able to play practicing. He might have been able to play last week.
Maybe not. We don't really know, but I think it's safe to say that there could be a little bit of an adjustment period for him returning to action, especially in a playoff game against a team like Green Bay. It's not going to be something super easy to jump back into. For me, it's just let's ride Saquon Barkley again. I mean, that's what they've been doing all year long. And A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and all the weapons they have. But, I mean, Saquon Barkley's got to be the focal point of the Philadelphia Eagles offense against a Green Bay team. You're right. I feel like they peaked almost maybe 6 weeks ago where they were rolling. They were putting up crazy numbers offensively. Their defense looked really good. But in the last couple of weeks, it's really slowed down here for Green Bay. Philly's got to take care of business here, Stevie. And I think they will. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you, AK, on that one. Great job by Green Bay. I really didn't think they would make the playoffs, but yeah, they are a talented team, and they did make it, just like the Denver Broncos in the AFC going up against the Bills. The main thing is what Saquon is doing for me. You know, that rushing attack, whether Hurts play or not, if you can ride Saquon and he does what he's supposed to with that offensive line, then I think you can control the game, and they will be able to control the Green Bay Packers. And their defense is somewhat healthy, so I think they'll be able to control that Packer offense and advance early.
Do you guys think Love is good enough to maybe go in there and steal this one, though?
I think he's athletically capable. I mean, the talent is undeniable with Jordan Love, but that's a tall task to go into Philly, which can be a crazy environment. We talk about Bills Mafia. I mean, those Eagles fans are legitimate lunatics, every single one in that stadium. I think it's possible.
We saw it last year. He went into Dallas and just actually smoked the Cowboys. Yeah. Went into San Fran and was toe-to-toe with the Niners. They probably should have won that game. So, like, I think with Love, because this goes back to the Lamar thing, because I've seen him go in on the road and kind of propel his team to victory or to near victory, I'm not as afraid of him going into Philadelphia and making a game of it. But at the same time, the way Green Bay's looked the last month, Philly could romp, and that wouldn't shock me either. This is the one game where I just have no feel.
What do you guys think about that the Vikings and Green Bay game and how the Vikings shut down that Green Bay offense last week? That to me, that concerns me because they got up. They kind of played different. The Vikings did that usual. They got up and really challenged them and played man and forced those receivers of Green Bay that kind of have, and I hate to say this, guys, plug your ears, everybody eats.
They do. Well, Christian Watson hurt now again.
They don't have a guy, but people think they have a good core, which they might have a good core, but I guess maybe throw this to Stevie, but is a receiving core that has 4 number 3s, one you're worried about, or 4 really good number 3s, one you're worried about, or is it a more feared receiving core has a really strong number 1 and then some other supplemental pieces, because that's what it looked like. That's what it looks like Green Bay has entering the playoffs, and that's what would concern me, especially against that Eagles secondary, which is locked down you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think it's more difficult to cover 4 very strong receivers, as opposed to having 1 and then having other mediocres, because it comes down to situations, the things that we can't really talk about. It's not enough time to really talk about if this happened, if that happened, is third down, is his turn to get it, is when you're thinking about things like that, it's like it can be a negative effect on the team. If you only got that one player, because if that one player isn't perfect, you can't really rely on the others, or you can strategize an entire defense around like we talked about with Surtain. Hey, we might have a great defensive player to guard this guy like Ocho Cinco and Revis. They played each other back-to-back weeks in the end of the season and in the first round, and you've seen they completely neutralize Ocho, and that took it away from the Bengals. So I definitely think it's much more beneficial to have multiple, the everybody eats thing, the everybody eats mentality on offense, because it's more of a threat.
I'm trying to think of a receiving core because I don't know. I'm trying to think of a receiving core that has a really good A, and then their B, C, and D aren't very good. First one
I
to
mean,
jump.
Houston, Nico Collins, and all these
There's a great
guys.
example. I thought Houston and maybe even the Eagles. I know Devontae's been pretty good, but after that, there's really nobody. But I think those receiving cores, I think Nico and Houston, and I think Philly and AJ, I think those they'd be tougher for me to handle than Green Bay, because they just have a bunch of guys versus a guy you need to double team.
I think we need to look at it from a quarterback perspective, and it's I'll just like use the Josh Allen everybody eats example. Diggs leaves, and he said it multiple times. I don't have to key in on that one guy. There's not someone that I have to make sure I'm getting them their targets, and I can just be free to throw the ball to the open guy. And maybe Love has a bit of that with his guys, and it's always something different. Maybe it's Reed one day, it's Watson one game, and it sort of changes. But I just don't think the talent of those Packers receivers is on the same level as like those Bills guys. They're just like.
Oh, I think it is.
Really? Who's their?
Jaden Reed and Wicks and Dobbs.
Look at the numbers Shakir's doing.
The numbers are because of Josh Allen, not because of Khalil Shakir. Jaden Reed was playing with. I love. By the way,
Reed is so
I love
inconsistent.
Khalil Shakir. I think he's awesome.
You say you insulted his family. Khalil Shakir.
No, but the Bills receivers, the Green Bay's receivers are just as good as the Bills, but they don't have Josh Allen.
I will defer to you, but
You think Matt Collins would play on the Green Bay Packers offense?
I think Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Amari Cooper are all three of those guys can. If you put those guys in Green Bay's offense, it'd be better than what they have. Green Bay's dudes are just so inconsistent. Like Jaden Reed, you look at the first game of the season, Jaden Reed had like 130 and completely went off, and you're like, oh, this guy's a stud, and then he just no shows for 5 straight weeks.
Yeah, well, that goes where Love missed some time, and he was there with Malik Willis for prolonged periods of time. There's a case to be made. Why don't we defer
let's ask the receiver.
for the stud receiver here?
It's still about the player's movements. Like with Khalil. Like he'll get the ball and he's instantly going upfield. He's getting the ball behind the line of scrimmage and he's instantly going upfield. Whether you hit him, he's bouncing off. With Reed, he's catching off a post route and you need a quarterback to place it there. You don't see that different type of dog and from like Shakir shows. So I think he'll be able to excel anywhere. With Mac Hollins, I think he's a witty guy who can understand a system or any system and fit in, whether he's blocking or being a prop for a receiver to run an option route off of him, or just sit in the hole, which is easy. So I think he can do that anywhere. With Keon, look at his athleticism, everything. He's a young kid. He gonna be phenomenal. I think he can fit in anywhere. So I think the Bills really gotta. When I talk about one great guy like Amari Cooper, yeah, he's got the accolades, and then you got really, really good 1 or 2, 3, and 4. I don't mean like bottom of the chart, you know what I'm saying? Because these guys, like I explained, they're very special in the talent that they got and what they provide for Josh Allen. Also, it's not just putting the ball there; they still got to make the plays afterwards.
I think one interesting thing with this matchup too is on the other side of the ball, and you mentioned that Packers Vikings game. Anytime they kind of needed something, either Addison or Jefferson was beating man coverage and making a good catch. And now you have you're going up against similar type guys with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. And I think that could be the real struggle, is that the Packers, how are they going to cover those guys? And that could end up being the difference. So we got one more.
Be a great game. Some really nice games in the schedule. I also like this Washington Tampa game.
That's our last one,
well.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about rookie quarterbacks going on the road in their first playoff start. Jaden Daniels is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year against the Tampa team. That's pretty likable. I mean, the Bucs with Baker Mayfield, that Mike Evans story at the end of the year.
Every degenerate in the land making their money on that. Mike Evans, 80 yards yesterday.
Exactly. Jalen McMillan, the ascent at the end of the season. I kind of like
sick, man. That guy's real good.
I mean, UW. Yeah, he was awesome down the stretch. I do like Tampa. Again, they have playoff experience, right? A lot of those guys have been there over the years.
Beat Philly last year.
They beat Philly last year. And for Washington, I mean, I think it's a tall task against a Tampa team that's coming in with a lot of momentum. Jaden Daniels is going to have to do something special to beat this Bucs team.
So, and this is another week 1 rematch. This is another game we saw at the very beginning of the season. Tampa won 37-20. Jaden Daniels wasn't quite Jaden Daniels yet, but he ran for 80 yards in that game. Like, he looked good. I think you nailed it. Jaden Daniels has to do something spectacular if they're going to win that game. So
He's capable
I'm looking at that game from a betting perspective, that's what I'm gonna hammer his pass yards, I'm gonna hammer his rush yards, and then I'm gonna do that lovely FanDuel market of pass and rush together, because that's kind of what they need. They're gonna it's a kitchen sink game for Washington. They're going to have to literally just let him do everything and try to win that game.
I didn't know we were allowed to say hammer, because if that's the case, I'm bringing back the hammer halftime, because I love hammer, and then I think I wasn't supposed to say hammer.
What, they said hammer's been banned?
Well, it wasn't banned, but I think it was
discouraged.
It was frowned upon.
Frowned upon. Okay.
Don't hammer anything. You just gently place your bets.
Gently.
I don't know if anybody who's in the office has ever worked beside me and seen me type. I'm hammering those keys all the time, so it's not just
So it's not a mouth.
I'm hammering everything.
Yes.
Hey, how you guys feel about those defenses though, with the Buccaneers?
I don't like either of them.
No, that's a shootout. The highest total on the board
let's
is
have
Washington.
let's have a fun game with
and
ton of
Tampa.
points.
Let's see 35, 32 in favor of someone, and then they move on and likely get slaughtered in the divisional round. But yeah, this is the game I think for me that's most likely to be just a explosion of offense like we expected to see on Sunday night between Detroit, Minnesota, and did not see, at least from the Minnesota Vikings. But I think you see Mayfield and you see Daniels go head to head. I think you see some big numbers from those two, and I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
For sure. And we can bring up the schedule here, and you can see all of these games on both TSN and CTV. Actually, wait, that's a lie. The Bills game is only on CTV. Everything else on TSN and CTV, and you'll be seeing Davis and Takia setting everything up for everyone. But what perfect time then to go to our best bet standings, where in our group chat there was some celebration, people trying to crown Stevie.
Premature celebration.
This isn't the English Premier League. This isn't the Bundesliga. You're not winning any regular season trophies. We got to see this thing through.
Are maybe playoff correct picks were 2 in the standings? I think maybe we're 3 in the standings.
I never been in the playoffs. I've never been in the playoffs, so I kind of I thought it was just on the season.
I think maybe we could look to explore that potentially.
And let's go to our best bet for this week then, because actually me and Stevie, I'm not going to be able to catch him because our bets kind of work hand in hand. This is going to be an SGP plus, because I'm going Josh Allen over 220 and a half pass yards. Have you looked at this guy's career playoff stats? Like, I like the rush yards too, but this guy he's like 330 yards of total offense every playoff game he plays. The 220 makes no sense. I also key when you're looking at these playoff matchups, especially with early bets, make sure you're checking the weather. Only 30% possibility of precipitation.
Windy, not too windy, nothing crazy.
Wind, so I love Josh Allen going over 220 and a half, and that's paired with Stevie, who loves the Bills to cover that 8.5.
Indeed, I definitely going to select the Bills. I'm rolling with you, Hein, on that. It's going to be a beautiful day in Orchard Park, and the Buffalo Bills are going to come out to play and take over that 8.5 and cover for us.
So I'm joining in on this SGP Plus, but I'm taking a Denver Broncos receiver, but it correlates to a big day for the Buffalo Bills. Marvin Mims, my guy. So his number, I'm jumping on Marv. So he went from 31.5 receiving this pass or last week. He's up to 42.5 in the wild card round against the Bills. But I think there's a really low number in the way that Denver is utilizing Mims all over the field. They're bombing it to him. He's well over 7 targets a game in his last 7 games and has gone over the 42.5 in 6 of the last 7. Marvin Mims, the explosion has come on in the second half next to Cortland Sutton.
That's the type of receiver who torches the Bills.
Yeah, and I think in a game in which we expect the Bills to be leading and the Broncos needing to throw in the second half, that could be a lot of action for Bo Nix to my guy, Marvin Mims Davis.
I love all those plays, by the way. I love it. I'm going to add one. Puka Nacua, zero chance that he goes under his number. I love Puka Nacua. He's got that rapport in a game where it's going to be a shootout. He's gonna get his. Probably see a lot of zone. He sits down and has a great rapport with Matthew Stafford. I'm going Puka Nacua for my first round playoff.
He does need a dub. But hey,
take it easy.
Playoffs now. It's playoffs.
You want to throw that in there? Eh?
Hey, I'll say this. Yeah. Who did this man give last night on the broadcast?
That's right.
He said Jahmyr Gibbs. And the smart people laddered him up to 150 and they made money.
We're not going to talk about the broadcast. The fact that I've had 4 straight best bet
Nothing
winners.
but winners.
3 straight slant parlay winners. Those are just, we're probably up 75,000 units right now.
You know what I'll say,
what we give to the people. So yeah, we're going to hammer it.
I know like TV's one thing, but Davis, these lights, they might just be a little brighter. And that's okay when you come into the studio, you know? That's what happens. All right, Stevie, see us out.
Hey, look, guys, believe in yourself. Nobody believed in the Buffalo Bills coming into this season, and look what they did. 13 big dubs. Hey, we like to hear your opinions in the comment, and don't forget to handle business, have fun, and repeat. It's live from the Broken Table. One love.